um, being proactive in trying not to get to the problems. We'll talk about that as well. So being proactive, so you try to bypass some of the issues that come up. But once you get into some of these issues, what are some ways that you can renegotiate or just kind of facilitate? And
So as we were walking through this, I will say Dave tends to be, I mean, because he is a listing specialist. I work with all our buyers agents. I'm the sales manager for our buyers agents. So I'm like coming at it from the other side. So we're going to try to hit both sides. But what we like the best in this whole process is jump in. We want to hear what you have to say. Well, Dave and I are both I was going to say fixers. We're problem solvers. That's all there's to it. That's what we do the best. And if you've got one or something's bugging you, bring it up. We'll help you solve it for sure. Or just talk through it. That's we have a buyer's agent that we literally go all the way around a circle when he has an issue, but because he's got to talk it out and he gets the answer. But sometimes
she's
you
the
have to.
same way. She'll call me on the way to the office and it will be a 45-minute conversation, which she already knows the answer and stuff, but she has to work it through and stuff like that. Whereas I'm kind of a,
Then we have to backtrack.
and she'll yell at me because Dave, I don't need you to fix this right now. I just need to talk about it. And my mind immediately goes, when there's a problem, I totally just I push the problem away. Okay, we've got this problem. Let's move forward. This is what we're going to do. This is how we're going to take care of it. And very rarely do we have a problem come in front of us that we can't take care of. Our clients never know there was an issue. So it's only when we have a problem. So the theme of this today is going to be the art of keeping a deal together. And so one of the big things, though, when we're talking about some of these, what are some of the issues that you've had that a deal's fallen through? And one of the big ones that we're seeing right now is just going to be on inspection. And so we're going to kind of talk about the first thing we're going to kind of talk about is issues.
Can we talk about the non-professional agent first?
You want to do that first?
Yeah, I do. Because a lot of these issues are not issues when you're dealing with somebody on the other side of your deal that either has some experience, is willing to work out the problems too. But what we run into so much when we have issues is agents that have not done their homework, do not really know what their sellers are thinking, what their buyers are thinking, and it all falls on you to fix it, right? I mean, I can't tell you how many agents I've trained over the course of 35 years that come in and have no clue. Our county has some very specific rules about things. And they come in from the next county over and they're clueless. You're like, why didn't you do this? Because they don't know anything about your county. But negotiating a contract with someone that doesn't know what they're doing is really hard. So first thing I tell my buyer's agents when we're reviewing a contract, I'll ask them, who's the listing agent? Dave, first thing Dave looks at is who's the buyer's agent, because it's so important in how you take the next steps. It's hugely important. We have an agent here in Ann Arbor that kind of sets a standard, very high standard. And I tell my people, if you're going to do things with Martin, you better be doing them at the top notch or you're going to be just out the window for him. He's not going to look at your deals again. So,
I'm gonna step on her feet on this one just real quickly. Is that not so when you're negotiating a contract right up front is obviously the first set of some of the things that you're looking at are price, inspection periods. I also look at who the lender is, but 100% I look at who the agent is. And one of the reasons why I look at who the agent is so like Amanda, you don't, and Daniel, welcome, and Giovanni, you've probably not been on one of ours before, is Maria or Cheryl. There's a quiz. Do you guys know why we say be the 10% and why our thing is called be the 10%? Do either of you know? Maria, tell us why. Use
Well,
Dave, use Dave language.
well, because the other 90% are not good.
Non-professionals.
Not
So the
professional.
whole reason we have this be the 10%, and you'll hear that mantra, we'll use it 20 times a day, is 10% of realtors are what we refer to as professional realtors. They view this as a business. They go out of their way to just knock it out of the park. We know who those realtors are. And so when we're negotiating with an offer, especially we're still a multiple offer situation here in Ann Arbor, Michigan, does that go into play? Do we talk to our sellers about who the other agent is? Yes. The other big thing that I want you to be aware of is, and what I want to talk about is one of the problems we have with some people, non-professional agents, is they want to do whatever they can to be in primary position. Okay. So they want to get, hey, the numbers look great and stuff like that. And we will literally have agents that will tell their clients, let's just get in primary position, and then we're going to renegotiate on the contractor's inspection. So they get in primary, and then they renegotiate and try to renegotiate. And we know who those agents are. They have a reputation for doing that, things like that. And those are some of the things that you want to be careful of as well. And so we always tell our clients it's not always price and terms and things like that. It's who the lender is and who the other agent is. Because the thing that a lot of agents aren't aware of is, and Maria knows this, and Cheryl knows this as well, is that when you try to go through and renegotiate after a contractor's inspection, especially in a market where there's multiple offers and things like that, that constitutes a counteroffer. That gives the seller the opportunity to just walk away from the transaction. Many buyers agents don't know that, or many agents don't know that. So that's one of the things that you want to be careful of is just, be aware of that. Again, that's from a listing agent standpoint. And we have that happen quite a bit. Sorry about that.
He's gonna whack me too. Not even step on my toes. Those hands go flying.
But tell them why we want professional agents on the other side too, and it's kind of that part too. So,
like I just said, I end up training half the agents that come to me. So you end up doing both sides. In the middle of something right now where this guy keeps writing addendums for buyer's agent. I'm like, no. And this is the thing that I said to Dave that was the most irritating is generally the agents that either haven't done a lot of business or are little sketchy, they're bullies. They're going to tell you you're stupid. Oh, that's not right. That the seller says that works. The seller says this works. That you can't see that in the inspection. You saw that. And they're bullies. And they want you to think they know more than you. But in general, if you're like that 10% person and you've got your homework done and you've done your research, you can't let him bully you. I got an addendum today. I swear to God, some dude must have said to ChatGPT, please write this and put in as much legalese as you possibly can. Like, send it back. I crossed out half of it and just said, sales price is, this is done. My agents know the less the better, and don't make it hard. Just don't make it hard. It's like, but he thought he was going to pull one over on us, and that's just not acceptable. So I'll catch it.
and I think the biggest thing to learn from this part of being a professional agent would be both from be aware that when you get that reputation of being a professional, it will open doors for you, and it'll also help you get your offers accepted. Have I accepted offers or I shouldn't say my sellers accepted offers, but most of the time my sellers are saying, Dave, what do you think? But it's my job, my fiduciary responsibility is to let them know all the information so they can make an informed decision. One of those will be, this is the history and the experience I've had with this agent in the past. And this is what they've been known to do in the past. Whether they're going to do that now or not, I don't know. I'm just giving you the information of what I know. So be aware that as a buyer's agent, by doing everything extremely professionally, you're going to get your offers accepted, and you will be given, you know, you will be given an advantage over other realtors. Now, and then the other part is on the listing side, know who the other agents are. And if you don't know who the agent is, go and look at Zillow reviews. Go and look at Yelp reviews. Go and call if you know someone in their brokerage, and you know have a relationship. Hey, who's this person? What's your thoughts? And you'd be surprised at what people will tell you. So that's going to be something that I think everybody should do, and that's really to head off issues in a transaction.
Yep. And I mean, the last little piece I'm going to put in this is, I don't know if anybody else is in multiple offer situations, even in not multiple offer situations. You're coming in, if you're a good agent, you've done a lot of good work, you've done work, maybe you're coming in under asking price, but that agent knows the listing agent knows you've done your homework. You write a good contract. It's so key to being on the top of those people's lists. And he knows if you're coming in with the price, you've done your homework. So you might be better off even in a not competitive situation. You're going in, I pulled my comps. This guy's going to say, he'll talk to you. He's going to go to his seller and say, he's done his homework. So who knows? It does help.
And also communicating with the other agent from a buyer's agent standpoint. I can tell you as a listing agent, the person that picks up the phone and calls me and says, "Hey, Dave, I sent you an offer here. It's based on the comps or something like that." I mean, I don't need people to justify a lowball offer with comps and stuff like that. But just, "Hey, Dave, I sent this over to you. And I sent you a text message also to let you know that it's in your inbox, because many times it goes to spam or something like that. And here's my buyer. You know what I really love too is I love it when the lender calls me as well. A lot of people don't like it when the lender calls. I love it when the lender calls and says, "Hey, I just, I know our mutual client or whatever, wrote an offer. I want to let you know I've done all the background. They're good to go. These are golden people." And so those types of things, and just communicating. And there's no such thing as over communicating in real estate. And a lot of times what we'll do too is when we call, we'll also follow up with a text and an email, so that there's also kind of evidence of our conversation as well. Okay.
All right.
So that
we beat non-professional agents to death.
Is there any questions anybody has on that aspect as far as non-professional agents? You've had issues with a particular agent. Any specific questions on that at all?
I have one. What do you
Yes.
do when you can't get in contact with the agent and they're the broker? They're the broker as well. I've been dealing a lot with that lately, and I'm just
My gosh,
a little frustrated when I'm like, "You're the broker here, and you're not even answering the calls." It's kind of ridiculous.
Yeah. So I mean, that's the hard part when they're the broker also. If they were just a regular the agent and they had a broker above them, the next thing that you can do is you can call your board and say, "Hey, I've been having a large time." But the problem you're going to have to is when you start going over people's heads and you're trying to get an offer accepted, or depending if you're the listing agent or the buyer's agent, some of these people, and again, I use the term idiots. Some of these people, when they're idiots, they think that you're going above them, and they're just not doing their job is the problem. Is then they may just say, "Skip, I don't even want to deal with you at all." So that's the hardest part. When they're the broker, the only two options you have is, and I would send a text message, I would make a phone call. And one of the big problems we have in our real estate business and realtors, they don't pick up the phone and call. They don't make a phone call. Make a phone call, text message, email, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. There's no excuse for them not to respond. And if you don't get any response there, then my suggestion is contact your board. That's really the only one that's going to be able to create some leverage for you.
If it's in an MLS and they're not responding, they've put a house out there for sale, and that's just not the board can then intervene because it's in the MLS.
The other thing I would recommend, being the brokers for 3 years, a lot of times our agents, they won't, the broker or the agent will not respond to them. Then they call me and I make a phone call, and I do it a little differently than most people.
He's loud and mean.
Maria will tell you that I'm kind of just who I am, and I'm very direct. I'm very transparent. They will respond. So get your broker. If you're not the broker, Giovanni, get your broker, or if you have a team leader, if you're part of a team, have your team leader make a phone call. But I would get someone that is someone within leadership, because that's totally unacceptable. And I, as your broker, would expect you to call me, and I'll make the phone call.
Where are you out of, Giovanni?
I'm out of Maryland.
Oh,
Yeah.
Is that Dave?
Yeah, Dave.
yeah, Dave.
Oh yeah, call Dave.
Yeah, it's funny
I
because
never want Dave to be mad at me. He's too tall.
I'm 6'4", 250, and I've never felt small before.
Me too. I stand next to Dave. I'm like, what's going on here?
Yeah, he's just a big guy. He's a big old teddy bear.
I
But
stand next to Dave and I come up to his waist.
Well,
So-
it's funny. I followed all through your steps. I called, I text, I sent an email, finally got a call back. And even then it was not the most pleasant conversation. I just ended up sending the offer, and it's been taking 2 days for him to just get, back to me on the offer. So
you're
it's
gonna
crazy.
have those times. We have those times. And then it just depends. And then the biggest thing that I would recommend to you is make sure that your client knows, hey, I've been trying to communicate. I've done this, I've done that. I've sent text message emails. I've got my broker involved. My biggest concern is I want your client to know that you're doing everything possible, and that is just one of the 90%. But make sure that your client knows you're doing everything you can. That's my biggest thing, is make sure your client knows. Okay. So we're going to move on to who here has had a deal fall through on an inspection. So we basically, the two things that we're seeing deals falling apart on are inspections, and believe it or not, we're back to financing again too. So financing, bad appraisals, we're seeing that again.
We're seeing people, sadly enough, we're seeing people that literally don't qualify or have lost their jobs and stuff. That's a lot of that going on too.
And we'll talk about that in the appraisal part of it in the finance, but with inspections, that's why I think it was good for us to set up there are agents out there that are going to tell their client, hey, we're just going to let's get in primary position. And then we're just going to renegotiate after the contractor's inspection. And so I see that a lot. So one of my things one of my recommendations for any buyer's agent that's going to have a buyer doing inspection is make sure that you're setting expectations with them. Why you are doing a contractor's inspection. Okay. And what I don't work with buyers as much. I currently work with a couple, and I just closed on one. But what I tell them is, hey, here's why we're doing a contractor's inspection. We're trying to find, issues with the home that we can't necessarily see during, the walkthrough and things like that. What we're really looking for are major items: plumbing, heat, HVAC, roof, things like that. We are not looking to see if there's a screw missing on a plate. We're not looking on a 1930s house where we're going to make them put in GFCIs in the basement on a 1930s house. We're not going to ask for a replacement roof if the roof is 5 years old. And the other part is just set the expectation up front. And then obviously you have the other aspect of it too, where mom and dad comes along. They know more than the inspector. They're going to tell their kid, that's $50,000 worth of stuff. And so you've got to do that. That's why I have the conversation with them, the family and everything. Okay. And obviously you're always concerned, well, they're going to think I'm not working in their best interest by telling them this. No, you are the professional. You're telling them, these are the main things we're here. We'll discuss the report after you're done. But just be aware, this is the main reason why we're doing this. And I would tell them up front, this is not a blatant trying to renegotiate after the contract. If there's legitimate, reasonable items, 100% we're going to ask for, either by having them getting them done or by credit. And just as an aside, always get a credit. Don't ever have a seller fix anything, because they're going to do it the worst way that you can fix it, to say it was done. Get a credit. That way your client can do it the way they want to do it. That's my advice. And that's one of the things that as a seller, listing agent, excuse me, I tell my client, let's do this as a credit, because let's say you go and fix something and then down the road, they didn't like the way it was done. Is there some legal stuff there? Potentially. So let's just bypass all this. So
I don't know. I haven't seen this in a long time. They used to write, and pretty good agents here in this town, that to the satisfaction of the buyer. We don't write that I can't say I've seen that in 5-6 years. Used people do that to the satisfaction of the buyer. No, you figure out how to do that yourself. I mean, if you've got a professional company, that's putting in a new, like a radon system, that, that's a pretty simple.
Ask for a licensed professional to complete the repair rather than to the satisfaction of the buyer.
That doesn't even happen anymore. It used to freak me out. But one of the things that I do want to point out, and I'm really curious, because some areas have agents go to inspections. Some areas say, hell no, don't go, because then it puts you in a rough situation. I'm fighting with one of my agents right now that let her buyer off the hook. I'm like, no.
Let's ask them.
Yeah, I'm curious. What do they do? What do you do?
What do you guys all go to your inspections, or do you read the Tom Ferry stuff where they say don't go? Or it may not be Tom Ferry, but there's gurus out there saying don't go to the inspections. But I want to see who goes to their inspections.
Oh yeah,
everyone. Okay. Great, wonderful. I agree with that 100%. So does Kathy.
Well, you have to be able to help your people. I mean, you're not going to get in the middle of it. I mean, seriously, how much do you know about well and septic? Unless that's what you did for a living before you're a realtor. But more importantly, I mean, I've had inspectors do a 2.5-hour Zoom inspection with somebody in Seattle buying a house here. That buyer has to be involved. They just have to be. How can they possibly know? I don't know that their parents need to be there, but in fact, I'm pretty sure they don't. Except that I was there for my daughters because I'm bossy. But
that's a really good point. Is one of your buyers should be at the inspection. And if one of the buyers is not available, I guarantee you they know somebody that lives in the area that can go on behalf of them to be there as well. I think the first part is you need to be there, because that's part of your, to me, your fiduciary responsibility. And what's our end goal on every transaction? It's not the commission, it's to build a client for life. That client always feels that you've got their back, and then that you've always got their best interest in heart. So that's the first part of that. But having someone else there, like we just had one where the client wasn't there, there's so much miscommunication when an inspector starts calling them and telling them, here's the issues that came up. And then let's say you're there and you're going, well, that's not what I heard. But anyways, and then the other part too is a buyer's going to freak out when they see something that's not that big of a deal. So that's the other aspect of it too. But have somebody from the family or their entourage or something like that be at the inspection as well.
And Amanda, I kind of see your point in that, but I don't love the buyer not being there. I mean, maybe for the roof stuff outside. But even then, I mean, I want to know what's
Yeah.
happened.
I totally agree. So I think the biggest thing for us is that our inspections standard are at 9 a.m. or at 1 p.m. So there is a time window that
Oh.
all the inspectors pretty much all work on. And so for the first like 2 hours, they get to just go through and do everything that they're doing. If they see something big, they always come tell us. And then the buyer comes in after and kind of follows around for all the final wrapping up. And then the full report gets downloaded at that time, and they talk to them and me about it, only pointing out all the large items. And then within a few hours, they get the full report sent to them at home. So they review it again, and then we have the conversations before we start our negotiation. So, and then also another thing too, talking about the contracts, asking for repairs. In Oregon, they've changed our contracts now where everything, like all the verbiage before your list of repairs that you request, it states that it has to be a licensed contractor, because we used to always say licensed contractor for this, like all these, like, the lingo to protect our clients. All
Right.
that's now in the paragraph beforehand. So all we do is just list the items. It took us a couple of years to get used to not saying all the specifics that we wanted if we were asking for repairs. I agree, though, credit is way better.
Aren't there a lot of things you don't need a licensed contractor for, though? I mean,
There are, yeah. So we only pretty much list the things on there that you would want a licensed contractor for. Like if the sewer line needs repair, or, you don't want just some neighbor digging it up and fixing it. And so, yeah, we don't tend to ask for like the little handyman type things, though. Those are
Good.
things that, yeah.
Well, that's gonna, so I have two things on that real quickly is regarding going through the inspection is one of the things that I know that they do here in Michigan is the inspectors give a lot of maintenance tips and things to do to service things. And I think that the buyer should be there for those. Hey, you may want to do this every 6 months and this, that, and the other thing. It's not just about finding something wrong. They're also going to go over maintenance types issues, and it's going to be in the report probably also. But to me, it doesn't, I mean, when you're actually seeing something and what he's saying, hey, this right here, the water softener, this is what you want to do. So I think that's important. And then you just led us into another big point on this is, so you get an inspection, all these issues come up. Who has gotten, as a listing agent, a list of 27 items, and one is screw missing on the faceplate. The garage door doesn't come down 1/8 of an inch to the cement. And there's 27 items like this. We want these all repaired. Okay.
Go find a new house.
This is part of that education part of, we are not going to go through on every frickin' item that comes up on this inspection report and write it down. Because I will tell you from a listing agent standpoint, the initials are F and U will come from the seller. Okay. And that's what the seller will say. And what you'll do is you'll shut them down from wanting to even do anything for you. So again, whether you do it or not, and stuff like that, that's up to whomever, but that's not how you want to do it. Now, if you want to kind of rationalize why you're asking for certain things, my recommendation is stick to the larger items. And most of the time, the larger items are going to come somewhere to that number. Now, I've also had it where they've had all these small items, which I could probably have a handyman fix for $3,000, and they ask for a $15,000 credit to take care of repairs. Okay, you already know what the two initials are that the seller is going to say. So this is where I tell my clients, do you legitimately want to buy this house? Or do you want the issues to be that are present to be taken care of? I hear you. I understand that there's these issues in the report. But remember when we talked about our main objection is trying to find things that are either, health issues, safety issues, things like that. Let's focus on those. And so that the seller is not distracted or just out of hand says no. Okay. And I'm giving you that from a listing agent standpoint, that I'm the first one that gets it. and that those two initials come out of my mouth, or I think it. And guess what happens when I send it to my seller? And I kind of, they're going to ask me, Dave, what do you think? And guess what I think? And so they're already thinking that, but I've basically just conveyed to them that I agree with them. And that they say, no, Dave, just tell them nothing. Whereas if you can't come in with a few things and say, and I'll tell you exactly how I do it. If I have 27 items, I tell my client, hey, don't stress out. It's okay. I did the FU too and everything like that. Let's go through each item. And what we're going to say is reasonable, not reasonable. Does that sound fair, Mr. and Mrs. Seller? Hey, that sounds perfect. So we go through all of them, screw you, type of thing. But then we got, that's reasonable. We did not know that, Dave. We feel that's reasonable. And then we come up with a list of reasonable items, and then we will say, we're just going to give you credit. And most of the time, if and sometimes that's an agent strategy, though, to do 30 items. And then Michigan ad, we had someone ask for $47,000. We said, we'll give you $7,000, take it or leave it. They took it. And if they had done that differently, they probably could have gotten more.
So two things on here. Because Dave talking a lot from the listing side. When you're doing the asking, and you can see in Michigan, there are things people don't know is wrong with their house. Dave alluded to that. In Michigan, every basement has a little bit of water, needs a dehumidifier, and I'll tell you what, every attic, and people don't go in their attics anymore. They don't go in their attics. They don't put stuff in their attics. They got all this other space, and there's mold in their attic, guaranteed. And we used to joke it was this one inspector. Now we know better because it really is there. It's there.
We would tell our clients before the inspection, just so you know you've got mold in your attic. And they go, well, why do you say that, Dave? Watch.
But legitimately, there are places. So I've got a couple shelves in my basement in the corner, and I don't move them very often. And they're up because I'm very famous for putting something in my laundry tub and letting it overflow. So everything in my basement's up, and I don't see this little trickle of water that comes in there's things you just don't see. Or if you've got a finished basement, it's not bad enough to screw up the drywall or whatever, or the carpet, but it's enough that somebody's going to put one of those meters on there, the moisture meter thing, is going to find it. So there are legitimate things, and they'll go, oh my God, I can't believe that. Oh my God. They feel bad and they don't want it to be, so they want to be helpful. But the way
those are reasonable.
But when you are doing the asking and your buyer comes back and says they want $47,000, and the listing agent says, well, I need to see how you got to that number. Be prepared. I don't care if it's, I've got to call you. Hey, Monday was Martin Luther King Day, and I'm trying to get a hold of the county to get some information, and I can't get anything on a septic system. That's weird. But I'm going to do my homework before I'm going to ask. I'm going to get as many quotes as I can. I'm going to be able to say, for real, this is what it's going to cost, and this is why I'm asking. What's up, Amanda?
That's what I was going to ask too, because I know every state's a little bit different. But here, if we're asking for any credit, we basically have to justify it with a couple quotes where then they will decide what they feel is fair. So yeah, if you're talking about a septic, we have a quote for 15,000 and one for 20, and then they'll decide somewhere in the middle or whatever. So is that kind of how it works elsewhere?
Yeah, they're more likely to. If I get in this issue and I say, hey, I need a couple days, give me an extension on my contractors, they're much happier about that than you coming in and saying, I want $60,000 because we literally have a septic tank that was set improperly and backwards. Have found out some things about it through much diligence, but weird things. This guy's like, how can that possibly be? I don't know. So we got to solve, but
And I think the key part is that whole reasonable thing. It's just, I mean, no house is perfect, and but I think if you're asking for reasonable items, that's why I would also just focus on when you send back stuff to the other agent, is have it be legitimate, big stuff, and don't get in the minutia of small stuff. All right. Because usually the large stuff. And then the last part on this that I think we really is you can probably gather is that we're huge into communication. Communicate, communicate, communicate. And one of the things that I will tell you from being old back before we had text messaging and
Emails.
social media and all this
Computers.
kind of stuff, we used to have to pick up the phone and call people. That was the only way you could communicate with people. Then we got beepers.
Then
But-
we got faxes.
But the reason I bring that up in jest is I still think the best way to communicate with another individual on things like inspections or offers is to pick up the phone and call. And then I would follow that up with a text message and an email, just to memorialize what was said on the. That's what
I'm much bigger on send an email because I can, when I just really am sucky at texting, I can include my manager and anybody I need to be supportive with. So yeah.
No, Curbio. Yeah, we don't have Curbio here, so that's
No.
the hard part. We've been wanting Curbio for a while, but they're still not available in
No.
Michigan. But yeah, Curbio is a if you've got that resource, 100%.
One little thing to say about this, and I've noticed this. I've started using a new inspector that I positively love, and one of my buyer's agents uses them exclusively, and she didn't on this one with the septic, and she's paying. He will tell you your buyers right up front, we're doing this. When you buy this house is your responsibility. And he puts in there, it is your responsibility to keep this clean. It's your responsibility to put salt in your water softener. The seller's not coming, especially if they're renters, the seller's not coming back to do that for you. And you're not gonna, it's not my job to come back and do that for you. So I really like that, he's really conscious of that. And he talks to them like, okay, yeah. So when you do this, you just go down to Costco and you get salt or whatever. And,
Also, why you want your client there at the inspection. So any other questions regarding inspections? And then next one we'll hit appraisal type stuff next.
We can talk forever about this one, but I don't wanna,
well, the other part too is do you have any inspection type stuff that has come up that you had a question about or you didn't feel was handled correctly? Anything like that at all? Do any of the stuff that we talked about kind of help you out as far as, kind of how to approach inspection issues that could potentially derail a deal? The key though is communicating. So let's talk about appraisals, because we're starting to see appraisal issues again where we didn't have that for a while. And I deal with a lot of the appraisal issues on our side. So one of the things that I want to bring up real quickly with any appraisal issues is there's ways to not get into that issue to begin with. And so the first step to try to mitigate not having appraisal issues is when you do your listing appointment with your client. So I'm going to talk from a listing agent standpoint. Kathy will talk about from a buyer agent standpoint, is make sure that when you're doing your initial listing appointment with your seller client, that you go over the comparable sales. And one of my little things that I talk about is I say, hey, what we want to do is we want to look at comparable sales, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, because what comparables, we have to sell a house twice, okay? The first person we're selling a house to, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, is the buyer. That's the easy part. Who we also have to sell the house to is the appraiser. And that's why we're going to go over sold comps, because what we want to do is we have to show that there are previous sales to be able to support what we sell it for. Okay. And so what I always tell my clients is sold comparables give you the price range of where the house should be listed at. Competition tells you where in that range. Okay. So it's important to go over those solds because you've got to justify to the appraiser that the value is there from comps. Okay. Who has ever had a seller that wants to price their house way above comps? Okay. The reason why you don't want to do that, I mean, and again, I talk out on both sides of my mouth when it comes to this one because rule number one, Maria, when it comes to listings.
Well, Dave's always right. That's rule number
Oh, that,
one.
no,
No,
that,
that's
a different one.
overall
That's
arching
over.
rule number
Well,
one.
yeah, that's the old,
Or
rule
or
number
the
one,
listing.
David's always right. Rule number two is if you ever think David's wrong, refer back to rule number one.
Call me and I'll tell you the right answer.
But no, rule number one when it comes to listing. Okay, Maria,
I know.
Cheryl, what's rule number one on getting listings? Let's see.
I'm sorry, on getting listings?
Yeah, what's rule number one when it comes to listings? Get
Get
the
the
listing.
listing.
Get the
Oh.
listing.
I like it.
So, I mean, because what a lot of people say is, well, you can get them down to your price and things like that. I've always found it just to be a slippery slope. You can set an expectation up front that, hey, well, we'll reduce the price by such and such. I don't do
We'd
that
rather
anymore.
price it right in the first
Yeah,
place.
so my suggestion always to people is price it right to begin with. I'd rather negotiate up from list price than down from list price. And 10 out of 10 times you'll sell it for more money, pricing it where it needs to be. We're in a society where there's so much information, you can't fool someone into what a house is worth. Now, when you start dealing with escalation clauses and multiple offers and things like that, you can push it up to some ridiculous amount, but that's a whole nother ball game. But that's also price it where it should be at. So the reason I bring that up is we already have the comps that support it. So that if you've got a problem with appraisal, you've got an appraiser coming, you want to supply the appraiser with those comparable sales. And again, the other part that a lot of people aren't aware of is an appraiser is not going to change their value. Okay. You've got one shot only. Now, sometimes with a VA, you might be able to go to Tidewater.
Okay.
And
We've
that's
had it happen twice in our whole.
But I'm telling you, and again, someone here will probably tell me I'm wrong, or on social media, they'll tell me I'm wrong. Mine is based on over 3,000 listings. I have listed over 3,000 houses in my career. I have only had 2 change in 32 years and over 3,000 deals, and they were both VA.
Actually look at Tidewater for some reason, but they have
They do for some
they have
reason.
a good process. That's why I don't know why.
So the reason I bring that up is if you think that you're going to have a problem appraisal and you're a little concerned, Maria, that one house, that one horse property you had and stuff like that, you better figure out some comps, and you want to make sure that you schedule that appointment to be there with the appraiser, hand them those comps. Yeah, you can email it and stuff like that, but sometimes it's a finesse. And sometimes just a little trick. I don't go to meet the appraiser because of the fact that I'm 6'4", 250 with a deep voice that sometimes comes off as intimidating. And I'm not saying that other than know your crowd, and then, read the room. I'll send Kathy if we need someone from the office, but know what I do more than anything else is I will send the comps to my client, or I will send them to the appraiser, but I'll make sure my client is at the appraisal. And I'll have
Be
them go
thoughtful
through
about that before you do that.
Yeah, make sure you don't.
Really thoughtful. It's really important who's at the appraisal. Sometimes it's the buyer's agent wants to go, and that's great. let them see the answers that it's, they're not going to come back and fight it with you. So,
But I think for you to think that you're going to be able to negotiate an appraisal after the fact is pretty much non-existent. So you're kind of left with two things at that point. So first thing is that you can ask for a new appraisal. Again, this is from a listing agent standpoint. I'm gonna have Kathy talk from a buyer standpoint. You can ask for a new appraisal, but guess what the problem is at that point? The underwriter's already seen the low appraisal to begin with, and it's for that to get approved is going to be slim to none as well. The really only way you're going to be able to, from a listing agent standpoint, try to get it for the sales price will be getting them to go to a new lender, new underwriter, new everything. And that's a finesse too, to get the buyer and the other agent. And if the other agent doesn't believe that the value is there, they're going to fight that tooth and nail, as they should. And I'm surprised that most of the agents that go, oh, okay, Dave, like, let me talk to my client. And then they go do a new lender, and we're going to get it to appraise. I mean, 99% of the time when it goes to a new lender, we get it to appraise. Okay. But what should you do as a buyer's agent in that situation?
but we had a gentleman he's since retired, and he would literally get an appraisal, and he was here during some real rough appraisal times, and he literally would write an addendum. Sales prices, price. Call the agent, say, hey, I'm sending over an addendum, didn't appraise, send the addendum over. And no, suck it up. Oh my God, drama. If I don't, you don't, obviously in this situation, you don't have an escalation clause or anything, but there's no drama to it. He literally just said, this is the sales price. And 90% of the time, they did not bat an eyelash. Now it's kind of changed a little bit. But you're going to do the best thing you can for your buyer. As you've been through the process with them, if they negotiated a high sales price and they don't have any cash, you know this, you've got their back, but your job, and I have another buyer's agent that's like, I don't want them to pay more than they need to for a house. And sometimes it's not your job to do that. Your job is to help the buyer get the house they really, really want. So sometimes you do have to make some adjustments. Sometimes if they don't have any cash, you kind of are in a tough spot. Go back to their lenders, see what we can do. Or, they do have a little cash. They can work things out. You can maybe come to a meeting of the minds in the middle. But what you're dealing with is getting your buyer. Still, your mission is to get your buyer this house if that's what they really want. So,
and it's really going to come down to, do they have any? And the other part too is, let's say your client has no extra money because they're going to lend based on the appraisal. Okay. So if they have no extra money, then I would just be upfront with the listing agent on that and just say, you know what, this is going to have to be the sales price, or make sure your buyer's good with that too, saying it's got to be this, or buyer's got to walk away. There's no extra money. They've squeezed out everything to come up with the amount. Typically what we'll see is, seller will, the old meet in the middle part, where I know there's a book out there saying never split the difference, but sometimes I think that is the fairest way. And, even if they have to go to their mom and dad and get a gift or something, or find some extra money, they're paying $5,000. Let's say it's $10,000 difference, and they're having to come up with extra $5,000. They're buying that house for $5,000 less than what they negotiated for. Seller doesn't want to do it either, but they're saying, okay, we'll give up $5,000, you give up $5,000, and that splitting the difference part, can do a lot. So it's got to be what your client wants and what's in their best interest. And the seller needs to decide, do they want to put their house back on the market again? Now, just be aware though that I've seen it happen many times where I get an appraisal for $300,000. Let's say the house sold for $350,000, and I'll get an appraisal for $300,000, we'll get a new lender, and guess what? And then the new lender pays it for 350. So what is the true value of that house? Is it 300? Is it 350? So who the appraiser is makes a difference. And I'm going to tell you one little thing that we do, and then whether you want to do it or not, it's borderline. Is we make all appraisal appointments go through our office. They cannot set up an appraisal through showing time. They have to contact us to set the appointment. And because we want to know who's doing it, there's also a couple of appraisers in our area that have a reputation of coming in low. Okay.
And not just a little low.
Real low. And so we want to control that process, and it's in our client's best interest. And then what I'll do is I'll go to my client especially when it's one of these appraisers, I'll go, hey, you know what, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, we've had a history of having problems with this. One of the things I can do is I can go tell the buyer's agent, we have had a history of bad appraisals from this particular person. And we only have maybe 5 appraisal issues a year. We do about 150 deals a year. And it's typically the same appraiser. And so what we'll do is we'll say, I can't say, no, you can't do the appraisal, but I can ask my client, and they're going to say, we don't really want them doing it. And I'll say, do you want me to contact the buyer's agent and say, hey, we have had a history of problems with this appraiser. Here's the deal. By all means, your bank or whatever, you can have that appraiser doing it. If it comes in low, we're not negotiating. I'm going to tell you right now, we're not negotiating. So it's up to you if you want to have this appraiser still do it, or you may want to discuss this with your lender to see if they want to get a different appraiser. That is a gray area, because you can't dictate who the appraiser is, but I can tell you that we have saved a couple of deals by having it done that way.
It's one of the reasons that when you very first get a deal and you look at who the lender is, are they local? Do they have local appraisers? I don't want somebody that's appraising out in Maria's area to come to appraise a house in Ann Arbor in any way, shape, or form. We're distorted out here, and that's fine. It is what it is, and people know it. But your lender makes such a huge difference from that local appraiser standpoint, from your ability to talk to him if something does go haywire. Is he smart enough to come up with some alternatives? Could they do other things that would make it, if they, with agreements? I mean, I've seen the guy that we use, he pulls out tax expirations. So now these kids don't have to come up with tax expirations, and the seller's fine. That's a bending, figuring out things that if you've got a good lender and he knows the programs in your area, and maybe these kids didn't I assume everybody's a kid. These buyers didn't really need that process. Change a program around a little bit, figure out a way to get this house for them. So there's so many reasons to use a good local agent. Don't just bank on the interest rate. I mean, that's just the thing if that's all you care about, that's fine. If it's going to make or break you, I guess it's a possibility, but not being able to get the house is going to be just as bad. So use somebody that you trust and make relationships with them. I do want to go, if we got to go 5 minutes.
Real quick, yeah.
Yeah,
any questions on appraisal type stuff, or any issues that you've come across or have questions? If not, Kathy's gonna go over. Kathy handles all of our title stuff, but this is important. And Maria, you've seen this too with title and things like that. First thing is make sure you have a great title company that you're working with, and make sure that you've got an open line of communication. Our particular title company, they'll alert us to when they see clouds and things like that. But
well, the first and foremost, if you're listing a house, your sellers know if Uncle Bob had an interest in this house and he's dead. There's so many issues that you can talk about with them. I mean, you've had a conversation at least once. Oh my gosh, my dad died. Now I got to sell this house.
or not. Maybe it's just their house or some weird piece of land, which I'm not even going to go into those things. Those are the things that are important. Is it in a trust? Is there possibly a divorce in the background somewhere? Something with probate. Maybe there's a ladybird deed. What's going on with the wills and trusts and that kind of stuff all leads back to probate sometimes. So you've got to be in deaths and death certificates and who really has an interest in this house. So you're going to try and nail that down as early as you can, right?
Is the person that you're sitting across from, do they have the ability to be able to sign a listing contract and or sales contract?
Yep.
And I can't tell you how many times the listing agent had the wrong person signing listing contract and sales contract. They were not entitled.
Yeah, just of late, we've had a lot of things, a lot of investors putting houses up on the market. It's an LLC, and they're literally signing their documents, Anchor Bay LLC. An entity cannot sign a contract. A person can sign a contract with authority to sign a contract. An entity, nobody signs as a trust. You don't ever sign anybody else's name. Oh my God, there's a reason that we have POF or as attorney in fact, things like that. So you're going to gather as much of that information as you can from the seller. They don't always know everything. They don't know stuff and they can't possibly. It's like negotiating contractors inspections on your dad's house. Well, I don't know when it's put on. It's crazy. But so then you get straight, get to your title company, pull title as fast as you possibly can.
Order pre-title as soon as possible.
Yep.
Send out that. We do it sometimes prior to the actual listing, but we send it out the same day we get a listing because we want to see that title policy ASAP. And how many people here have had a situation where they're getting ready to close and then you find out that the wrong person was signing or they didn't have, or there was a divorce. They didn't know there was a divorce, and now they've got to get a divorce judgment, things like that. And we've had it. We've had it going the opposite way. So obviously the volume of deals that we've done, we've come across these things. That's why any listing agent should be pulling title work the day that you list it,
if not before.
Yes, because they're going to give you the requirements of different information that you need. And let's say, has anyone had to quiet a title? We've had quiet titles where we had no idea that the title need to be quieted, and that's going to take 6 months to do.
3 to 6 now. They got it down pat. I will say, one of the things, if you deal with investors or you've got people buying houses that were bought on tax sales, any other way other than a straight warranty deed was issued, if a quit claim deed was issued, all those odd things, you're going to end up in a quiet title situation unless your municipality, and a lot of times the reason this is because those situations don't require title insurance. So be cautious of those kind of things. You run into those. Obviously the deaths, Dave, I know what I'm doing here. But there's just so much stuff that can go wrong. Quieting title is costly and timely. So you get your title commitment, read it. Obviously, send it to your seller. Your seller's going to go, what the heck, if there's something on there. Got to remember, we're only talking about situations. If you sold Bob and John a house 3 years ago and you know exactly what happened and there's a title insurance policy, we're not going to freak out about that. This is just the odd situations where you're selling grandma's house. Read it. And from the buyer side, you're going to give it to your seller. You're going to tell him what's up. Don't be afraid to let your seller just call the title company, because sometimes you can't explain it as well as they can. They're really good at it.
I'm just going to clarify. We know a lot of agents that don't read the title work. So we find out about something. again, a couple days before closing, because we now see it or something, and the agent did not read the title work when it came. And then the other big thing that we had one particular agent, she did not send the title policy to her client. And so the first thing you should do is read that line by line to look for any clouds and things like that. If you have a good title company, they're going to tell you you need this, and this. But make sure that you send it immediately to your client, because you also have probably something in your contract saying that you have X amount of days to review the title policy.
So there you are. You got, okay. I'm going to tell Maria anyway. No, I'm going to tell everybody it's going to listen on the thing. The most important thing is from the buy side, you're going to do the same thing. Get your title commitment. If you've got split title, make sure that you're getting the one from your people. The listing side's going to tell the selling side what they want too. So they usually match. It's pretty great. But from the buy side, you're going to review it. And my biggest warning at this point is you look at it, and I've looked at them and say, oh God, he's got to know this. The listing side's got to know this. Maybe not. Don't assume that they know that their client, even it's something as simple as an operating agreement. Like, why do I need to give an operating agreement? Get an operating agreement to your title company. Has this been, have these items been taken care of? Do you have the death certificate for Bob or are we still waiting? Anything that's going to slow up your deal? Because you've got commitments to people. You've got, you're spending money on an appraisal. You haven't dealt with all these things. Now I'm going to have to do this all over again. So don't assume that the listing agent has done the investigation on that job, on that title company.
And just be aware too that their title company may not be as good as yours. And so they may not have caught these clouds, or, hey, we don't have an operating agreement. Does this person really have we've seen it happen a couple of days again. The title company finally, looks at it, and then they tell the agent, because the agent didn't read the policy. Well, shoot, we got to do this now. They're scrambling at the last second. And if you're doing anything a day before closing or at closing, someone did not do their job. And as we know, this is a referral business. And what is the last thing someone remembers in a real estate transaction? If that closing gets screwed up or something doesn't get done at the last second, you could have been everything white glove and perfect. And Maria's the greatest thing since sliced bread. And then something happens at closing, that could be no more referrals and things like that. So that last impression makes a big, huge deal.
And as you well know, Maria, choosing your title company is a very important process.
Well, I chose from the best. So very good, you guys. Very good. I'm glad I got to sit in.
Well, it's good to see you again. Don't be a stranger.
No, I won't. What are you guys doing a Zoom next weekend? Or not next
week? Yep, we're gonna do it every Thursday now at 11 a.m.
Don't ask us what we're doing, because we
decided. Yeah, what should we do? Maria, what should we do? What should we do?
You know what? Let me chew on it. If I come up with something, I'll send up some idea, or I'll send them over your way.
Sounds good. This was Kathy's chewing, so she's gonna have to start chewing some more for next week. So.
You send me something, I'll send you a beautiful video of my granddaughter.
Just send me that. Just send me. I want to. Oh my goodness, send it my way. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited.
So I've already told her once that grandbaby comes, she'll be working half the time that she was before. So it's already starting. It's already starting. So.
You'll be taking the grandbaby on appointments and stuff before you know it.
She'll be coming into the office. We'll all babysit.
We used to do that with your kids.
Yeah, we will. So.
We did that with your kids. And now I don't know. I used to take my daughter, her favorite thing when I very first started real estate, I worked in a building. I can't remember. New builds. And she could there is nothing more fun for a kid than an empty house. She could do cartwheels and she could go, empty house, greatest thing in the world. So.
Well, I always took my daughter to like the pizzeria when we would go up north, and oh my God, she would sell people like bracelets. She would sell them to do magic tricks for them, and then she would read them stories, but they had to pay to get the story. So she's been a little hustler right from
An
day one.
entrepreneur from day one.
But I
love
think
it.
there's nothing better than to see your parents doing it and to kind of take on that, same energy, and they learn. And I think it's awesome.
Well, you can do all the things that you couldn't do with your kid. Now you can do it with your grandbaby. So that's the best part.
Well, and kids love that too. They love to feel like they're really doing something important, even if it's, whatever it is, tidying up something or whatever. Nothing is too small for them.
My favorite videos online are the ones that say, what should my 4-month-old baby be doing? And they talk about him chewing his fingers and stuff, and then they got him cleaning the kitchen sink. And yeah, somehow I missed that with my own daughter, teaching her to do the kitchen sink.
Yeah, well, I think because when you're the parent, you just want to get it done. So you quickly just do everything because you don't have time you want to just be done with it. But when I know the grandparent, like my mom, when my daughter was little, she would let her sit there and do the dishes and clean stuff. And I'm like, no, we just got to get done. We got more stuff to do.
No. My bad story is my mom would ask my sister and I to it was our job to do the dishes when we were kids, and she ended up having to wash the kitchen floor. So she finally just said, go away.
Exactly.
Every time we wash the dishes, she'd have to wash the kitchen floor. So.
Yes, that's exactly it.
Bad. It was bad. So, all right.
Good to see you.
Awesome.
I didn't tell you 135.
What's going on with it?
It's closing for 135. Already got appraised and everything.
That's amazing. Hold on, let me look at it.
How beautiful it is. I'm going to stop the recording though.
Okay. Hold on, I'm going to pull it up right now.